Great! If you really want to understand how to play triads on the piano, then this is the lesson you're looking for. In this particular tutorial, I'll be looking at how to play triads, how to form different type of triads, and at the same time, we look at the triads of C and G major. So what is a triad? Taking a clue from maths, we have what is called a triangle, and a triangle simply means a shape with three sides and angles. So the same thing applies to triad in music. A triad is simply a chord with three notes or three sounds. So does that mean any chord with three notes is a triad? No. There's actually a component of what makes a chord a triad. A triad is a three-note chord with a root, a third, and fifth. If there is no root, third, and fifth, then it's not a triad. Now that you know a triad must have a root, a third, and a fifth. Now let's go right to the different types of triads and how to form them. Now to explain this, I will not be using intervals that is common with some scholars or school of thought. Now what I will be using is what we are familiar with. Now we have started this series explaining the basic things you need to know about the instrument, so I will take it right from that aspect. We have actually played like 7 scales in this series, so I will explain using the key of C to explain the 4 types. We actually have 4 types of triads, and the first one is a major triad, the second is a minor triad, the third one is a diminished triad, and the fourth one is an augmented triad. So let's build the 4th type of triad on C, that is, we make C as our root. Now the best approach that I use is, if you're building any triad on a key, make sure you relate to that key as a key with a scale. Now the scale of C major, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That simply means if you make the C your root and the third note after it that you play is part of the key of C major and the fifth is also part of that key, then it's going to be a major triad. Now let me take it again. If I pick, this is my C. If I try this triad, this is a major triad because E is part of C major and G is part of the note of C major. That means it's giving your do, mi, so in so far. So how do we make the same C a minor triad? To make this particular chord to become a minor triad, all you need to do is to reduce the third notes. Reducing the third note, just reduce it to the next note, whether black or white. That is, you take it backwards, whether black or white. Then it is going to give you a minor triad. And this is our C minor. Why this is C major? Now, can you say this particular key is not in the key of C major? So once I reduce the third note to a key that is not in that particular key, that is the next key below the third note, that is going to turn the chord to a minor chord. So then I have C major, then C minor. Now we have our C major and C minor. So how do we build a diminished triad on this particular key, making it a root? Now I usually call a diminished triad a smaller minor chord. That's because it simply means you still need to reduce something. You need to diminish it, make it smaller. So what do we need to reduce that will give us a diminished triad on this particular root? It simply means we have to diminish, we have to reduce the 5th note. That is the 5th. So if once we have this as our C minor, to get a diminished triad, then we have, that means we reduce this one to the next key below it, whether white or black. So we have, so that is C, E flat, and G flat. So once we play this chord together, we have a C diminished chord or C diminished triad. The last type of triad we look at now is the augmented triad, and from the word augmented, it simply means expand. That is, we need to expand it, increase it. So what do we need to increase? What note do we need to increase to have an augmented triad? Now this is our C major, you know that already. Now to have an augmented triad, you need to increase the 5th note by a semitone. Now instead of using that term, I always say take it to the next key, whether white or black. And the reason why I'm saying white or black is because sometimes the next key may not be a black note. it may not be a white note. It can be either one of the two. For example, let's say we are building a chord on this particular key. Then I want to get an augmented triad here. To get augmented triad, I'm moving to a white key, not a black key. So that is why I always say white or black. So I go back to the C. Now that means our augmented triad for C augmented is C, E, and G sharp. Can I say it? Now let's get to the part that is super interesting. That is, we are building and playing the triads of all the notes of a key. And we are starting with C major. We know the scale of C major to be our C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, how do we go about that? Now, quickly, let me give an info that will help you. In all the major keys on the piano, in all their scales, the chord 1, 4, 5, that is a triad built on the first note, the fourth note, and the fifth note, they are always major triads, except you alter it. That means except you adjust something in the note. If you leave it according to the scale, they will always be major triad. The second, the third, and the sixth, they will always be minor triad. Then the seventh chord in the scale will always be a diminished triad. And let's look at it in the key of C major. Okay, before we start quickly, let me mention something about fingering for the triad at this level. So you only need, for the left hand, you need your 5, 3, 1 for the left hand, and the right hand is going to be 1, 3, 5. So you need something like this to play your triad for now. So later on, if there's any need to change the fingering, I will let you know. So we start with C. On C, the first triad is our chord 1. That is, we have our C, E, G, C, E, G. Then the softer note is your do, mi, so, do, mi, so. So you play the two hands together at the same time. Now you go to the second one, which is D, F, A, that is re, fa, la. You strike it down. You play your mi, so, ti. You strike it down. You play your fa, la, do. You strike it down. There's so, ti, re, that is your G, B, and D, you strike it down. Then La, Do, Mi, that is your A, C, E, you strike it down. Then the seventh chord, which is the diminished chord, like I told you, is your B, D, F, you strike it down. So we take it again. This is chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7. Now you have your octave. Now you take it back the same way. Now you can also play in arpeggios. Arpeggios simply means you break it, you split your notes. So you can also do that. You have your... In arpeggios, you play your 5, 3, 1. You respond with your 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, and that's the way you move on all the other triads in the scale. So that's it for using solfa. You have do, mi, so, do, mi, so, do, mi, re, fa, la. Take it back. We do the same thing in the key of G major. The scale is our G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So we build the triad, we play the triads and arpeggios in that G major. So I want you to take note of the chord 3 of that key, because most times some students have issue playing this chord like this. That is using the same fingering for that I explained in C major. But if you do not find this convenient, I will allow you to use this. You can actually use your 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4 to play it because of the raised note here. You can use this. Then for your right hand and for your left hand, you can also do this. That's it. If you are not convenient with this, for instance, if you are not convenient with the 5 3 1 and 1 3 5.